Okay, hello. So this is a follow-up video. So a few months ago, back at Christmas time, I did an interview with my parents, Christine and Norman.
Hello.
Where
Hello.
we were we were just talking about their point of view for what it was like with me living abroad, and there were a few questions, and I had a few people ask for a follow-up video. So we're going to try and make this interesting for you, give you more of a perspective. And for anyone who isn't familiar with the channel, sorry, my name is Richard. I live in Warsaw, Poland, and I am back home in the UK visiting family. So I came back this time for two main reasons. One, my mum's birthday, and secondly, my niece's birthday. So I try to come back for special occasions. I think I came back for your birthday last year, didn't I, Dad?
Yes.
Yeah.
We can tell roughly when that was.
And our 40th wedding anniversary.
Oh yes, that's right.
The next day.
Yeah. And I come back for Christmas as well. So one of the things that we're planning on doing actually very soon, we've got the works in motion, is my parents are going to fly to Gdansk, and we're going to have a week together. So we're kind of in the process of planning that and looking at the different options, because the wonderful thing about Gdansk is it's a very, let's say, touristy city, but it has a lot of history. It's a very beautiful place. So I guess firstly, what are you looking forward to with the trip?
Amber. I just go in this amber workshop where I can go and make a piece of amber jewellery, and I think that's going to be enormous fun, because I'm very into making jewellery anyway.
Does that make the traffic lights very boring?
I bought a couple of nice pieces of amber when we were staying in Krakow, so it'd be nice to look at some more, because Gdansk is very famous for it. We could even perhaps go on the beaches and try and collect some ourselves.
Yeah, it was funny. I went to Kołobrzeg last year, and there was an amber museum there, and they spent most of the time in this amber museum talking about Gdansk. And I was
Right.
like, okay, did they put this museum in the wrong place? Or... But yeah, in theory...
Well,
you
that
walk
area is famous, isn't it? The Baltic is quite
Oh,
well
yeah.
known for amber. Yeah.
Well, that's it. There's a lot of stuff that gets washed up
Yeah.
from the Baltic Sea.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is why in a lot of these Baltic countries you will find a lot of amber gift shops. And technically, you can be walking up and down the beaches there, and you can find amber. I don't know if I have or not. I remember walking up and down a few years ago with some friends, and looking for amber, and I picked up a few suspect rocks, which maybe...
It's much lighter than ordinary stone is.
Yeah, it's not rock. It's like a
I know it's fossilised tree sap, but
basically, yeah, with insects potentially in.
But obviously it isn't the same as the amber that you see in the shops, because the amber in the shops has usually been polished.
True.
The amber you find on the beaches is sort of rough and ready.
Definitely.
And there are a number of museums in addition to the Amber Museum that we're thinking of checking out, because,
Oh, there's an amber museum there as well, is there? In Gdansk.
well, I presume that's where this presentation thing is.
No, it's in a workshop.
It'll probably be a museum too. And we'll be going to, there'll be the Second World War Museum, which is immense. There's the Solidarity Museum, which tells you about the history of Poland during the communist era and how they kind of broke free
A
of
link
that.
to the Solidarish.
Lech Wałęsa.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, so he features quite heavily in this museum.
That's probably when Poland first came into my consciousness, I should think. Apart from the fact that my mum worked with Poles during the war.
There's a lot of Poles, as we said in the last video.
But was this like in the 80s then, or when?
No, it's much earlier than that.
They
I think.
came
Oh,
over during the war.
No,
Oh, sorry,
the Lech Wałęsa.
I don't
Oh,
know. Don't ask me
Lorenzo
dates.
is about that date. Yeah, I think he's about that date.
Okay.
Yeah, independence of Poland.
Yeah, and then
Russia.
what? So other than the museums, what else are you looking forward to in Gdansk?
Wandering on the beach, visiting the old town, finding out about Polish culture.
Hmm.
Are you allowed to pick up the amber off the beaches?
I think so.
Because in Wales, you got told off for picking up pebbles, didn't
Yeah.
you? Yes.
I mean, I think people do it on a regular basis. I've never seen anyone monitoring the beaches. Maybe somebody will comment and say, "Oh no, you shouldn't be doing that."
No, put that pebble back, and the sea comes in and washes away.
You've got a few bits of lava from Santorini as well.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. But okay, so we have this trip, and we're going to spend about a week there. We were looking at hotels and things online. The prices were better than what your travel agency were quoting.
True.
I have to be honest, I think a lot of these travel agencies rip you off. But yeah, so we found some compromises there. So I think you'll enjoy Gdansk. There's a lot. It's not the biggest place in the world, but there's a lot to see.
Well, that's nice because you can sort of get to know a smaller place. I mean, Krakow we were able to get to know quite well. Just
Krakow is
wandering around
lovely,
it.
absolutely lovely. Yeah.
It's so lovely that you can actually fly direct from Newcastle without having to change.
Yeah.
I wish they'd do that for Warsaw.
Oh, tell me about it. So if you work for the airlines, please give me a direct flight from Newcastle to Warsaw. Warsaw was voted the #1 European city to visit this year.
Did they ask people from Newcastle?
Probably not.
No.
No.
How big is Gdansk?
I can't tell you in terms of
okay.
off the top of my head. But I mean, to walk around, you know, like the main centre is probably like a couple of square miles. I don't know.
Right, okay. It sounds slightly larger than Oxford, doesn't it?
But yeah. So I wasn't really quite sure what other topics to bring up on this video, so I thought we'd just have like an open discussion and just keep it dynamic.
It's like us. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, one of the reasons I'm quite glad to be back as well is like recently my dad had to go to hospital, and it was very unexpected, and it was something that, I mean, it's one of the biggest worries you have when you're living abroad, that something will happen to your family and you're not there to basically, you know, to be there and things. I mean, I think in the end, like, it's being managed, but like the NHS is a complete disaster as always.
Well, they did us proud this time. We got things done quite quickly. But it's now we have to wait a long time for an operation, probably.
But it's stupid. You pay all this money, and you know you just end up with these waiting lists.
The system seems to be cranking. I think that's true. But if you rely on the individuals, then it seems to work. So I was seen in one hospital, Wandsbeck, and then they immediately organised me to go to another hospital, even though I could have gone into that hospital, but the delay would have been longer. So they got me into the, what was it, the other...
Emergency hospital, Cramlington.
Cramlington, it is the main Cramlington hospital, wasn't it? Yeah, I had to drive there, and I didn't know what I was there for, and we weren't really sure we were in the right building. But eventually, after about, what was it, half an hour to an hour, they worked out who we were and what we were doing there, and then they performed an immediate sort of operation, and then they ambulanced me off to the third hospital. So all that worked really well, but in the third hospital, I was sort of
I can understand how you felt, because I went through a slightly similar thing. When I was in my first year at university, my dad had a very severe coronary, and he was in an oxygen tent for 10 days, and I was at university about 200 miles away from where we lived, and my mum said, "Don't come home." And I felt terrible not coming home, and I'm sure my dad resented the fact I didn't come home, though he never said anything, because he probably didn't know that Mummy had said I mustn't. And my mum was so upset she couldn't even tell me herself what had happened. So I had to be summoned by the head of my hall of residence, who had to tell me what was going on.
That's the thing. I mean, I think I basically just had a message from you on Messenger to let me know the situation.
Well, you were very good keeping in touch and encouraging me, because it was a difficult time.
Yeah, I mean, as kind of mentioned in the previous video, one of the reasons my parents are living in this part of the country now is my brother and my nieces live up here, so it's not that they don't have any support, and it was a big relief when you did move here, because when you were in Oxford you had friends, of course, but I don't think the support network was quite as strong as...
No, I think you're right.
Well, we help with the economy, because we save on the childminding, with Peter's couple of children, and we volunteer in the local hall, and we do a really, really good job.
National Trust.
National
Yeah.
Trust.
Yeah, one other way we've aided the economy today is one of the problems of moving abroad, especially when you have student loans, is the government are, they're very greedy. So the two things happened basically with my student loan when I moved abroad. So one, they started charging me maybe 5-6 times what I was paying in the UK, claiming that the money I was on in Poland was so good that I could afford to pay more, which was a bit of a joke because I was earning basically the same as I was earning in the UK. Sure, the money goes further, but it's like, I think, the rate hike was extraordinary. So my parents were kind of helping me with that. And then secondly, like the interest payments on student loans have just gone through the roof now.
Because initially I think they promised there would be no interest on student loans. Then they backtracked, and I think it's not fair to do that. Once you've actually taken out a loan, you ought to keep to the conditions you started with.
I know, we really need to sue the government at some point. But I think they're kind of immune to most prosecutions. So one thing that we've kind of done, because like I was paying a lot of money, over £100 every month into this, and it was sometimes not even bringing the total down because of the interest. So my parents have kind of given me like bank of mum and dad loan to cover that. So I'm going to be paying them rather than the student loan company, which is taking a lot of stress off of me because this, let's be honest, the British government are more or less criminals, and these
Be careful.
No, it's not.
You don't want men in black following you.
Well, I don't think there's an extradition treaty with Poland, so I think I'm fine.
Follow us.
It's because we're not Russian.
Yeah.
The situation is not improving with Russia at the moment.
Certainly not.
No, I still have a lot of contacts in Warsaw from Ukraine, and they are still, they're keeping in what you'd probably say is like the best of spirits that they can do, but they have families back there, and it's still not a good situation, and everything you hear in the news just gets worse and worse, and Russia are just relentless at this point, despite the fact that they seem to be losing thousands and thousands of troops. Oh, what a shame.
I wonder if they thought about the implications. It's like the First World War. They're losing a generation of young men. What's that going to do to the economy and the population?
I think we've determined that Putin's just an idiot at this point, single-minded, and hasn't really got the grasp of the situation fully. So he's just.
I think his thinking is that he's throwing into the war for cannon fodder people that he didn't really want. Like the minority groups in Russia, and
that could be
prisoners. People who've already entered society.
Well, they're getting so desperate. I read this morning that this mercenary Wagner group is now trying to recruit boys in school.
Wow. It reminds me of the Hitler Youth.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe something similar. But one area that kind of went quite well in the video last time was when you were asking me a few questions, all very strategically targeted to make me think about why I'm not moving back to the UK.
I'm sorry.
That was.
And
I never thought you'd get that one.
I'm a mother hen.
Yeah.
And I brought the family together.
And all the comments were like, "Oh, it's very clear that your parents miss you."
I certainly do.
And who are you, by the way?
So
yes, even though we probably talk to you in a way more than we talk to Peter, because when you go and see the family, you're tied up with the family, and the girls take most of your energies and things. But we usually get a good hour talking to you each week, which is lovely. I appreciate that very much. But it's not quite the same as giving you a hug.
I know. This was made clear in the last video.
I'm sorry, I'm not trying to give you a guilt trip.
No, I know. I mean, this is why I come back when I can, and of course you're welcome to stay whenever you like, or come over to Poland.
I just wish it was easier to get to Warsaw.
Yes, yeah, this is true. I'm having to fly via Krakow today, which is fun. But were there any questions you had about my life in Poland and
Do you think it's changed a lot since you've been there in 5 years?
Poland?
Well, no,
Warsaw.
Your life in Poland, really.
Well, both really, isn't it?
You've got lots more friends, I suppose. You've recently joined this new group, haven't you?
Yeah, so, I mean, life is always changing. When I first got there, it was very much focused around work, because this is why I moved there. So all of my contacts were people I worked with. All of the social gatherings I had were with my work colleagues. Over time, that evolved. You know, you kind of make friends of friends. People leave your company, but you still stay in contact. So you gradually widen your social circle naturally. I met people through like dating apps and made friends that way. I did try joining some expat groups, but it was just before the pandemic, so I didn't really.
Doesn't help.
Yeah, those quickly died. But now that we're kind of post-pandemic, there are a few.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, well, it was all rubbish anyway. But yeah, so now that we're past that, we're at a stage where these expat groups are starting to thrive again. I've become very involved in a group called Warsaw Global, and with Warsaw Global, basically it's kind of like a lifeline for a lot of people who come to Poland. You know, we have a lot of people from India, from like South America, from other European countries, some of the Russian satellite states, even from Africa. We have people from all over, really.
I'm from Northumberland.
There are some people from the UK, a couple of people, but not so many. And it's a good like lifeline for them, because a lot of the time when people come to a new country, they have no idea how things work. So it puts them in touch with a network of people that can help.
You're an old hand now, aren't you, after 5 years?
Yeah, I mean, I've been through most of the stuff you can go through when you're living abroad, like the paperwork side and getting to know how things work. And yeah, I have a lot more kind of guide videos I want to do in the future to help with basic things, just even using public transport, that kind of thing. You know, maybe not the most exciting topics, but
They're very important.
Exactly.
I remember when we went to Berlin, I went with a group of friends. We wanted to go and see the Egyptian museum there, and if we hadn't had a German lady with us, I'm not sure how we'd have managed the metro.
Yeah, and this is it. Sometimes you just need a little bit of local guidance. But also, I mean, this group is great for just having some like people to do activities with. So we do board games, and we like play badminton or volleyball, which I enjoy. We go on these day trips together. We do hiking trips, you know. So for me, it's a good outlet, you know, something that like I have great friends, but you know, we tend to often kind of we'll have like, you know, nights in where we'll just, you know, catch up and drink or something. And it's nice to have these more, let's say, active pastimes. And it's kind of, when you have a larger group, it's easier to organise that kind of thing in a way. So there's that. So yeah, socially, my life, if anything, is twofold at the moment. The city of Warsaw itself does constantly evolve. We have new skyscrapers going up every year. We have new estates being built every year. The metro keeps extending. They're talking about having an additional 3 lines to the metro. Wow. It's going to look very much like London in the next 30 years. And the population keeps going up. We're having a lot of kind of more international people moving in. Of course, we have a lot of people who have come across from Ukraine. So it doesn't feel super crowded yet, but it's kind of getting a lot more crowded than when I first moved there.
Has it altered the atmosphere?
It's interesting because when I'm walking with like a Polish friend, and they'll say, "Oh, they're Ukrainian. Oh, they're Ukrainian," because they can pick up on the accents,
Right.
whereas I'm not quite at that stage. So, for me, it's hard to tell, but for a local, they do feel it a lot, and there is this sense of like how long it's going to go on for, what are the possible implications. I've even had some people say to me, are we going to have to start learning Ukrainian in schools now?
Wow.
Like there's a lot of uncertainty I think it creates, and I think the vast overwhelming public support aspect I've seen is support, and they're doing everything they can to help.
Yeah.
But there is, of course, that element of people who are a bit concerned about where things are going, and
Yeah, understandable.
like there's only so much that the country can do, and I don't think the EU has been as supportive of Poland as they should be, given the kind of the
Yeah.
brunt that they've taken. But yeah.
Are you finding it easier now you actually know a bit of Polish?
Yeah, slowly. I mean, learning Polish it's still very difficult for me. I was never good at languages, but I am getting more confident. If I have time to think about what I want to say, I can say quite a lot now. But it's being dynamic and fluent, which is hard. You have to, the words are still quite complicated to say, and the grammar structure is different. And I mean, it's not impossible, but yeah. So like in the shops and things, I feel a lot more confident. In bars, restaurants, feel very confident.
I remember you found it difficult buying meat, didn't you, when you first went over there? Because you didn't know what the Polish was for the different types of things.
Yeah, I think that side of, like, if I wanted to order something like that now, it wouldn't be impossible. I wouldn't remember everything, but I would know enough. And knowing like numbers better and measures better and things like that is of course an improved situation. And I think it will only improve with time as I get a better range of words and just have more practice, really. But yeah, reading and writing is a lot easier now.
Your turn.
Not really, no. We're glad that you've settled down there because you've got a nice situation. Because I think I think we all got a little bit fed up with Oxford. You're talking about people coming in from outside. I mean, there were so many tourists in Oxford in the high season. They used to push you off the pavements. Not supposed to be in the main road. Tough luck.
Yeah, and also I don't think it was the safest city to live in the end.
It was, it always was a city of two halves. The riots in the 14th century. I just thought I'd say that.
You found it much easier to make friends somehow, haven't you, in Poland than you did in Oxford?
Yeah, but I think there's a better demographic in Warsaw. It's like if I lived in London, it would probably be easier there, but there is definitely that element of being kind of a native English speaker, which people, a lot of them probably think, oh, I can maybe practice my English with this guy.
Newcastle maybe isn't as safe as Warsaw. We've begun to get knife crime coming up here, with schoolgirls being murdered and that sort of thing.
Oh God.
And there was a match in Newcastle yesterday, and Peter said, well, it's probably not a good idea to go into Newcastle today.
Well, I mean, it has to be said that we're living on an estate that's out of Newcastle, so we don't seem to be affected by that at all, really. I know a car was stolen the other day, but I think that's it, really.
Yeah, I mean...
And the people are very nice, they're very sociable.
Yeah, the latest trouble I've heard about in near Warsaw, people say is actually not anything domestic. It's because Georgian gangs have been moving in.
God.
And the police let's say the police are not very used to having to deal with crime in Poland, so they're perhaps
Lucky people.
yeah, but let's just say that probably affects their efficiency to actually deal with crime when it does
They haven't
happen.
got to the extent that they have to look it up in the dictionary.
I wouldn't be surprised. But okay, I think we can probably end it there. But thank you both, Mum
That's
and
right.
Dad, for agreeing to having another conversation.
Nice to see you passing. Yeah.
And we'll probably pick this up again in Gdansk as like a part 3, so I can get some of their perspectives live about what they think of the city.
Great.
So, thank you very much. And sorry, I meant to mention at the start, thank you to Wojciech and Ricky, who are my subscribers on Patreon. So if you would love to contribute to my efforts, do feel free to check out the description of the video. And thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. And do zobaczenia.